Welcome to another episode of Civil War, my review of Godzilla. Godzilla is directed by Gareth Edwards. It stars Bryan Cranston, Aaron Taylor-Johnson, and Elizabeth Olsen, and then a bunch of other very talented actors and a few actresses. Now the premise of this story is pretty much that something happens really big where Godzilla needs to come back, and then a bunch of human characters come into play when Godzilla comes out to play, and a bunch of destruction happens. And basically, I can't really tell you the premise of the story because I feel like if I do, I give too much away. Go see the movie. I'm happy to report I pretty much enjoyed this film. Now, overall, there is some flaws in this movie that I'm going to talk about, but the first thing I want to say is if you're a fan of the original films, like the Godzilla film from 1954 or any Godzilla film that was made after that, like the original like Japanese old school Godzilla movies, you will most likely really enjoy this film because this film was very much in line with those films when it came to storytelling, when it came to the human element, when it came to Godzilla himself in a certain way. I have to say that Godzilla himself, I felt like he played a bigger role in this movie than he has in those original films. Say in those original films, especially the first film from 1954, like Godzilla doesn't come out to like probably the 55-minute mark. While in this film, you see a lot of him leading up to the very big reveal of Godzilla. So that's pretty good. It teases you of who Godzilla is and what he looks like before you really see him in action. But when it comes to being a Godzilla film, this movie is pretty accurate in a lot of ways, and that's one of my bigger complaints about this film is that yes, I enjoy the original Godzilla films, but in the same token, I wanted a stronger human element in this film because I always felt that the human element in the Godzilla movies were always lacking. Like I never felt emotionally attached to any of the characters in the movies and the struggles they would go through, and I wanted to feel that with this movie with these characters, and unfortunately I didn't feel that for any of these characters. So the human element was lacking in my opinion, which is unfortunate because I remember the first trailer when it came out. The human element felt very strong in the first trailer at least. And I felt like it was going to be a big part in the movie where I was going to really feel something for these characters. And unfortunately, I really didn't. Even though the human element in this movie does play a big role as it always has in the original films, I just didn't feel that emotional connections to any of the characters. But if you take that to the side, I have to say as a Godzilla movie, this movie is pretty damn accurate. It felt like the original films in a lot of ways, but it's obviously more modern. The visual effects are a lot better. In that sense, this is going to be a movie that true Godzilla fans are going to absolutely love and enjoy. And then the general audience will enjoy for what it is. And then there's going to be people who are going to have issues with it because they'll feel like there's not enough Godzilla, or they're going to feel the human element isn't really strong, which could be a problem. But I feel like if you are a big Godzilla fan, like a true Godzilla fan, that you've seen like a bunch of Godzilla movies, you already have that taste of what a Godzilla movie is. This movie won't bother you in that sense, and there's going to be a lot of things that you're going to really like. It's going to give you that nostalgic feeling when it comes to a Godzilla movie, with especially the fighting scenes, like absolutely wonderful. I personally really liked that the most was the fighting, and obviously it's a monster movie, so that's an element that you need to enjoy a lot because that's what you expect out of these movies, is the big fighting and destruction. There's so much destruction in this movie. I like to call it disaster porn. This movie has a bunch of it. I mean, it's ridiculous. Like, San Francisco no longer exists after this film, at least. So overall, I have to say, once again, if you're a huge Godzilla fan, you're going to absolutely love this movie, or you're going to be very pleased with it. And if you're not a big Godzilla fan, I would say go in there with an open mind and try to understand what a Godzilla movie is in a certain extent. It's obviously that Gareth Edwards is a huge Godzilla fan, and he was trying to stay true to how the Godzilla movies are told, and he tried to stay true as much as possible to the original Godzilla films when it came to this movie. So I have to applaud him in that sense. But once again, the human element, I was expecting more out of it, and I didn't get what I personally wanted out of it. So That's my biggest issue. So that was my review of Godzilla. Thank you for watching, and if you haven't already, please subscribe. Hey guys, so the big thing that came out this week is a bunch of network TV companies were basically announcing what shows they were picking up for the fall season and what shows they were canceling. And a bunch of DC comic shows got picked up. Basically all of them that were put into pilot were picked up or were announced that they were going to become a TV show were all picked up by 3 different networks: Fox, NBC, and the CW. Now the one other DC comic TV show that's already on air is Arrow, and that got picked up